Hi, everyone. It's my great pleasure to present today some of the work we're undertaking in our lab in Marseille, France. Today, I want to discuss why we move in various, but not all, listening situations. The fact of dancing is moreover specific to audition. Basically, nobody dances when admiring the ambassadors. I want to discuss when the motor system participates to auditory perception, in other words. And for this, I will start with a story of oscillatory dynamics. We know that humans naturally move at 1.52 Hertz. That's the rhythm of walking, the pace, and that's the rhythm made by the different parts of our bodies. When asking humans to spontaneously tap a rhythm with the fingers, the head, or the feet, humans naturally move at this rate. This was shown a long time ago by Paul Freyes, for example. And unsurprisingly, this rate is also the one of music, as music is produced by human movements. Interestingly, this behavioral rhythm is also visible in the neural activity during resting state. For example, in these recordings made on humans with magnetoencephalography, you can admire that the resting state activity is mostly composed of beta oscillations at around 20 Hertz, but also delta oscillations. You can look at the peak on top of the 1/f decrease here. This is also true for local field potential recordings in the monkey motor cortex in various situations. This activity that is present at rest is also present when animals or humans move. And in fact, it encodes the motor trajectories. Recordings can be, for example, described in terms of a trajectory in an abstract space, and this state space trajectory unfolds at a rate of 2 Hertz. This is true when animals do rhythmic movements, but also when they do non-periodic movements. And this is also what we observe in the different articulators of the mouth when we speak. What about the link between this delta activity present in the motor cortex and in the motor behavior and the relation with audition? Arnaud Zalta is investigating temporal attention in our lab during his PhD. Temporal attention relies on the capacity to flexibly adapt and adjust to the natural dynamics of the environment in order to optimize sensory processing. However, studies investigating periodic temporal attention are consistently designed with rhythm in the 1-2 Hertz frequency range. So we decided to investigate periodic temporal attention with a wider range of frequencies. And for this, we designed a simple task in which participants were listening to a beat. And after a certain amount of time, there was a deviant tone, higher pitched tone, and participants had just to say if the tone is on beat or off beat. To modulate difficulty and make the task not too easy and not too difficult, each participant was presented with a specific amount of distractors adjusted to its skills. We trained participants to do the task at 2 Hertz and then generalize the task at different beats. What we observed in terms of performance was not a psychophysic sigmoid function, classical in psychophysics experiments, but instead an inverse U-shaped relation between performance accuracy and beat frequency, with a sweet spot at around 1.5 Hertz, indicative that auditory periodic temporal attention is optimal when focusing on rhythm at this rate. We also asked participants to move along when doing the task and to tap on the beat. We observed that it was optimizing their performances, replicating previous studies from our lab, but we also showed that this benefit was restricted to the 1.52 Hertz frequency range and not visible for low or fast rates. So we found that delta activity at 1.52 Hertz is present in the motor behavior, motor cortex, is the optimal rate of auditory temporal attention to periodic streams. So this is the story of compatible underlying dynamics. We modeled this effect with a model of coupled oscillators, and we also investigated the same effect in vision, and basically we find that in vision, when people move along while doing a similar task, it impairs their performance, and the model suggests that it's probably due to the fact that the visual cortex, there's longer time delays for the connection between the visual cortex and the motor cortex than the one between the auditory cortex and the motor cortex. Okay. However, the story of oscillatory dynamics cannot explain why we love to dance to Funkadelic, but not to Brahms. Okay, so there must be something else in here. And I will now tell you a story of computational function. We know that the motor system encodes temporal prediction. It's involved in timing and time perception in the range of seconds. It's recruited during passive listening of complex musical rhythms. And it was recently shown to be activated and encoding temporal predictions in the form of delta and beta activity during auditory attention tasks. To go further in this direction with Daniel Eschen in our lab and Arno Zalta, we designed an experiment in which we presented melodies to participants, and the melodies were characterized by their level of syncopation, which is a measure of the temporal regularity of the stimulus. So here you have a melody perfectly periodic, but you can increase the level of syncope. And increase it even more. Okay, so we created dozens of melodies, and for each of them, we computed the level of syncopation with a metric. We asked participants to listen to these melodies and tell us how much they want to dance, to move when listening to these sounds. And we basically replicated previous studies showing that you have an inverse U-shaped relation between the wanting to move and the level of syncopation, with a motor implication that is maximal for moderate rates of unpredictability, temporal unpredictability. These results were nicely captured by the model developed by Ed Large, in which the melodies is activating 2 layers of coupled oscillators, a sensory layer that itself activates a second layer of processing. And basically what we observe is a strong correlation between the subjective report of the participants and the difference of amplitude at 2 Hz between the 2 layers. We focused on 2 Hz because it was the beat frequency. And basically it shows that participants tend to want to move in reaction to a melody if the second layer of the model, but not the first one, is able to encode the temporal structure of the stream and then oscillate at 2 Hz. We also investigated in MEG what was the brain response to these melodies. And basically we recorded brain activity while participants were passively listening to the melodies, and then we extracted the power spectrum of the activity for each trial, and we tried to decode 2 parameters. The first one was the level of syncope. Can the brain activity tell us something about the level of syncopation of the melodies? And we can decode quite well the level of syncopation with activity at 2 Hz, which is the beat frequency, and the harmonics for an 8 Hz. And we also tried to decode the grooviness, how much participants wanted to move while passively listening to these melodies. In addition to this activity at 2, 4, and 8 Hz, we observed that groove was selectively decoded by activity between 10 and 40 Hz in the brain. So this selective response was further investigated. We looked at the source level where the activity is maximally represented in the brain. Here I represent a right hemispheric cortex, and we find that the 2 Hz activity is mostly represented in the auditory cortex. And if we look at higher frequencies, we observe that the activity is moving along the auditory dorsal pathway from the auditory to the parietal to the motor up to the inferior frontal cortex, known to process melodic information. Maximal activity was observed in the beta band in the motor cortex. So overall, this feeling of groove seems to be selectively encoded by spectrally and spatially distributed neural activity, but this activity is organized in the form of a spectral traveling wave along the dorsal auditory pathway. Overall, I discussed the idea of dynamics and temporal predictability have 2 main parameters contributing to the implication of the motor system in auditory perception. With this, I would like to thank my collaborators, in particular Arno Zalta, and I would like to dedicate this presentation to Peter Lakatos, who tragically passed away and who was one of my greatest scientific models. With this, I thank you for your attention and look forward for your questions.